Hey, happy, beautiful, amazing day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here, truth seeker, truth speaker, May 30th, 2020, with our SARS COVID update. We seem to have our divide growing again. It seemed like we are getting a little more unification on how we should handle this crisis. But let's take a look at this in more detail. People have asked, hey, why should I listen to you? My answer is always the same. You shouldn't. You should listen to your heart. You should validate what you're being told or what you're hearing from every possible angle. We want to know that what we're being told is actually true and real and accurate and resonates with our value system. So here's the two sides. COVID is super deadly. We should quarantine everybody. We should put a mask on everybody. We should sanitize often. And then there's the other side that says for healthy people, this virus is really no big deal, but for a certain segment of the population, it is. And we want to protect those people. Make no mistake about it. I have not met one person that wants an elderly sick person to be exposed to this virus. So here's another question. Who is most likely to be angry or anxious? The one that feels everything's super deadly, everybody needs to be separated, quarantined, masked, sanitized, or those who say, look, let the healthy take care of the world and the economy. So this mask issue, I think there were some fear mongers out again because I saw probably 10x the number of people wearing masks. We were down to just a very few percent, and suddenly we're up to about 30-40% of people wearing masks. And I thought, must have been some fearful news that I missed. But here's the facts. Annals of Internal Medicine said masks don't work against COVID-19. Well, why? Because the pores in the mask are too big. The viruses are super, super small. Now, could they work against bacteria? Sure, bacteria are big. Do they work against viruses? No, viruses are smaller than the pores. They can go through without any issue. So is this person being proactive, protective, or are they just plain fearful? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they are compromising their health and wellness by not getting good oxygen, by not getting good things that the plant has in the environment. We know that their breathing is compromised. We know their oxygen saturation drops, and my gosh, I don't know. Could you enjoy a day like that? Such a beautiful scenery. So here's the stats. This is updated to this very morning. This is our current world population. Here's the number of deaths that we have. We know the death rate, very, very smooth, very, very projected. So we ended 2019 at 759 per 100,000 people, 759 deaths per 100,000. We're supposed to bump up a little bit in 2020. We are well below the projected death rate. Well, what about in the US? We ended at 8.88 per 10,000. And guess what? We're 85,000 deaths below that. So when we start looking at death rate from infectious disease, we saw that from basically 1900 to 1950 something, the death rate had a very, very steady decline. Then it just plain bottomed out. But notice that, if you have a big change, like a big pandemic, you have a spike in death rate. If you have a major medical advance, you would have a sharp decline in death rate. But notice that we don't see any sharp declines. So improved sanitation and hygiene are the number one reasons that we believe we don't have any pandemics. But now let's look at the demographics. So this was published in Forbes. I'm going to say Forbes is actually pretty good at fact checking. Look who's dying. Well, people over 85 years old. So let's look at the stats. This is the demographic of the US population. Look at how many people we have over 85 compared to the rest of the world, rest of our population. But notice that we have 62% of the deaths over 85. What about 75 to 84? Hey, that's another 22%. What about 65 to 74? Another 8.8%. And notice that 97% of these people have a medical problem, one or more what they call comorbidities. They're diabetic, they're obese, they're hypertensive, they're sick. So is this a problem for healthy people? No, your probability of being healthy and getting this and dying below the age of 60 is near zero. Now, maybe, on the order of a lightning strike or something like that. So could it occasionally happen? I guess it could. But I promise you, if you dig in deeper, there had to be some underlying challenge, some toxin, some stress, something that caused a healthy body to give in to something that shouldn't affect healthy bodies. Recall that the world is saying now at least 1 in 3 people that get this have no symptoms at all, 0 symptoms at all. This is one of my favorite mentors and authors, Tom V. Morris. I call him PhD. He got his PhD in philosophy and religion. And here's what he says in his most recent book. He says the top 2 emotions in the world are anger and anxiety. So if you take a general population that's angry and anxious, and then you quarantine them, and then you scare them, and you tell them you have to take a mask, and you take away their joy, and they cut down their income, could there be some collateral damage? Maybe even on the order of riots. Well, 600 doctors wrote a letter that was published in Forbes that said, yeah, that's going to happen. We're going to have domestic violence, unrest, substance abuse, all this stuff going on. We've come back to this quote again: crime, money, power, drugs, they're all linked together. Is there money in this COVID thing? Oh yeah. Is there power in this COVID thing? Oh yeah. Are there drugs? Well, certainly they're trying to, but I tell you what, how many drugs do healthy people take? Last I checked, 0. Healthy people take 0 drugs. Are healthy people dying from COVID? No. So is it a crime to be pushing drugs on a population, making them sick? Well, the juries will ultimately determine that. Here's my advice for today: make space for inspiration. If you're inspired, if you're moving towards a good target, you're generally happy, productive, and that's good for your immune system. I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, truth seeker, truth speaker, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful.